I've seen a bunch of questions pop up lately about what should I get with my PX4. Should I upgrade my standard gun? What should I do to it? Should I send it in? Do I have to send it in? Easy answer is if you want a red dot, which 99% of you probably want a red dot, send it into Langdon and then just have them do trigger work while they're at it. Or save yourself on shipping and just buy the gun outright from them. This is the only gun I have that didn't come directly from them. This is what I would call like the poor man's best options. Obviously, it does have their RDO cut, but there's no trigger job. It simply has the OP trigger bar and an 11-pound hammer spring. Um, it's still really nice. It gets the job done when I'm shooting. There's no practical difference that I can tell. But if I'm shooting slow fire or if I am dry firing and being nitpicky, this one does feel a little bit grittier. But other than that, you get your bone stock standard PX4. It has stealth levers and the stealth slide stop, but otherwise everything else is stock. It still has the curved trigger. This still very much gets the job done. It is still a standard gun, so if you're stuck in California, then this is kind of the only option unless you know somebody and get a GST somehow. The only thing I would change now is I would get the irons forward that they just came out. That's just going to get a little bit more of the window open because you have a little bit more distance between the rear sight blocking the window. The front sight's knocked off just because it wasn't fitting in the Filster floodlight that I had. You can keep your front iron sight on, especially with the EPS sights. If you go with the EPS on my other two guns, it works out fine. This is a great setup. I think you're less than $1,000 all in for getting the gun, getting that. And then if you want grip tape, you can get Talon grips or something like that. This one just has the cheap skate tape that I was going with for the longest time. Now that I have a GSD, this one's kind of relegated to just a bedside gun. That's why it's got a light on it. It just can't do what the GSD can do because it doesn't have the heavy barrel and it can't get the heavy barrel. The other change I would make is I would get the fancy new guide rod they have. This still has just the stock polymer guide rod, which works fine, but the GSD on its own is nicer. But then that newer guide rod, if I wanted to spend more money, I would get the guide rod in this one, but I don't. Next, we move on to the compact. This was renamed the compact carry. Now it's going to look like a compact carry too because of the changes they made to it. If you could only have one PX4, I've said this before and I still stand by it, this is the one I would get. If I had to move to Hawaii like my boy Brandon P just did and I could only take one gun, I would take the compact, hands down. It's better for carry. It still works awesome for shooting matches. I don't feel undergunned. I can still fit full-size mags in there, or I can put extensions on the mags if I want and just run the compact mag with a Springer Precision or an OEM extension. I have the Talon rubbers that come with all the carry models. They are not as grippy as I would like. If for competition, I just tried the skate tape ones on my GSD. But as far as being a dad and running around chasing kids, this gives you a little bit more texture than absolutely nothing, and doesn't rub or hurt anything. Doesn't make me want to go down the slide a little bit less after going down 50 times because it doesn't rub me raw at all. There are more aggressive textures that aren't quite skate tape. The problem with those is if you dry fire a lot, which you should be doing, they wear out pretty quick. So it's going to be your choice. I didn't like having to replace my grip tape every month. That gets pretty pricey. The other option is you can send it to Boresight Solutions. I've come very close to that. I just want to try and keep my guns closer to stock just so if somebody asks, they can see it. I do have a Boresight Glock 17, which is amazing. Maybe someday I will bite the bullet and send it down to Ben because he does incredible work. But as of right now, we've just been cheap and using grip tape and Talon grips. So the compact carry and the carry 2, I think the only thing they really changed was they changed which levers they gave you. You can see on this side I have a stealth lever, and on this side I have the carry lever. That's because I thought I was going to be super cool, and I originally had the stealth levers, and obviously the carry levers give you a little bit more of a ledge to grab. And I was like, I don't want to print, so I'm going to keep my stealth lever on the outside. It doesn't make a difference. The only thing that really you have to fight to print is the corner, this corner of the optic, because it's a square body. Just stick with the carry levers. You can also run one or the other. As you can see, they both work together. There are 92 style levers, which I'm really thinking about putting on my Irons GSD just because they are super fun and they look cool, because the 92 is still cool, even though it's not as nice as a PX4. The other thing is the flat trigger. You do not need to get a flat trigger. The poor man's PX4 still has a curved trigger. I'm not going to say I shoot better with the flat trigger. There was a loud noise. I'm not going to say I shoot any better with the flat trigger, but I do enjoy it more. It makes me want to shoot more. It's just fun. Dealer's choice, whatever you want. The only other change I would make to mine is I would again get the Irons 4 EPS plates. Just cheap, and I haven't done it yet. Plus the EPS irons, like you can tell, are super low and out of the way, so it's almost like it would be a minor change. Maybe someday I will, but for now I'm just being cheap and sticking with this the way it is. So if I could have one gun, this is the way I'd run it. Maybe more aggressive grip tape, but right now this works really well. Let's see. Then we have the pretty much all out best model you can go. Clarify, they did send this gun to me. If they hadn't sent it to me, I would have bought it eventually when I could justify it. It's got everything. It's the MP3, flat trigger, their trigger job, RDO. This thing just, oh, and it's got their guide rod, which, again, if you're going the cheap route, what did I just do there? If you're going the cheap route and you don't want to pay for everything, or you're stuck with a standard model because you're in California or wherever, the two things I would do first are RDO and guide rod. Even before the trigger job, I think you could just get by with the OP trigger bar and the lighter hammer spring. I think the guide rod makes that much of a difference. This also has MP3. I'm not going to tell you that I shoot this MP3 gun better than I shoot my guns without MP3, but it's got the cut and crown. It looks so much cooler. And the thing about humans is we like cool things or shiny things. This is usually shinier, but it's dirty. So I enjoy practicing with this. I enjoy getting it out to play with it more, which means I get better because I want to practice more. So there is value in something, liking something so much that you just automatically practice with it more. That's what I do with MP3. I have toyed around with the idea of getting an MP3 compact carry, but that's a lot of money just because it's shiny and pretty. But the GSD, the only big difference between the GSD and the compact, other than the obvious size difference, is this one has the guide rod, and we have the more aggressive skate tape on here. You don't have to go with the aggressive skate tape. I wore it yesterday for carry. It's not exactly enjoyable, but it's not exactly tearing you to shreds. The Pro Talons seem to work pretty well, but they wear out pretty quick. It's going to be your choice, or you can get it stippled. So the big options you can do, buy it from Langdon, is that's the easy answer. Just buy it from Langdon. You don't have to worry about doing your own trigger work or anything. But if you really like doing your own trigger stuff and all that, then go for it. But the RDO really does amazing things with these guns, and they are the best option to go with. And if you're going to send the gun into them anyway, why not just send the whole gun and get your trigger done the way they can do it. Flat trigger, your choice. I'm not going to tell you that you're going to shoot better because you have this flat trigger, but you can see it breaks pretty much at a 90, and with the curved trigger, I always feel like I'm a little bit further back past 90. And the feel factor is there. It's an actual thing. It doesn't make you shoot better, but it makes you enjoy it more, and that kind of matters. The guide rod, I would definitely recommend that, and the RDO are, I can't overstate how much of a difference those make. The other options are, do you want your irons forward or in the rear? If you're running an SRO, you're going to want your irons in the rear because you can't run an SRO because it's got that overhang in the window. So you're going to make sure that you have the optic plate with the rear irons. Otherwise, I can't strongly recommend enough running irons forward. I have a Glock 17 set with irons forward, and that's just the way to go because your optic is your main sighting system. So get your irons as out of the way as you possibly can and go from there. There's 3 things that I don't have out here right now. Magazine extensions. Springer Precision is the only one that makes magazine extensions. If you're going to shoot competition, or if you're going to run their mag well, you need to get the extensions or their base plate, simply because if you put the magazine in here, you can see it's pretty much flush there. If you have the mag well here, this base plate is going to be hitting against the mag well. You can maybe Dremel that to make it fit. That's what she said. But again, that's not exactly ideal. So you're going to have to get their extensions. The other thing is when you get MP3, you also get 3 MP3 mags. They look really cool. They are shiny. They shoot out of the gun fast. Like, you can just notice a difference. I'm not going to say it's a performance difference. They might hold up to wear more, especially if you're carrying. They're not going to rust as easily, I don't think, but they look super cool. And again, the cool factor is a thing. The other thing is the magwell. If you get a Springer magwell, I don't run any magwells because I shoot carry optics and you can't run magwells there. And then also carrying concealed, adding a magwell to the gun kind of negates the benefits of having a tiny compact gun. I will say though that you bigger handed guys, I can just get my pinky on there, and then when I get a full mag in there, my pinky's on that mag, so I get a full grip. With the magwell, you're going to have a lip right here, so that's going to help lock your hand in. A lot of guys that shoot Glock 19s are going to understand that. With magwell, it's going to like lock your hand into the grip a little bit better. The last thing is the VPA comp, something like that. I have not gotten to see one in person. They look super cool. I've heard awesome things. Again, I shoot carry optics, and it's just something that doesn't work for carry optics. Would I like to try one sometime? Sure, but I don't know if you guys have noticed, but PX4s aren't exactly everywhere, so trying to find somebody with that comp on their gun isn't exactly easy to do. But if you're interested in getting one, by all means, go for it. You can get the compact one. Will come with a TLR7 sub, and the way it mounts is it mounts to the light, and then the whole thing mounts onto the gun. And then if you want to go with the big boy GSD, you need to get the X300A, I think, and those link together and go on there, or there's a standalone option. If you're debating between a standard gun and a GSD, if you don't live in California or a restrictive state, you have no reason not to get the GSD. If you had to wait 3 or 4 more months to spend the extra $200 to get a GSD, I'd wait the 3 or 4 more months and get the GSD. Not just because you get upgraded levers and all that stuff, but because the heavy barrel it makes such a monumental difference without changing that much in the gun. I think you're at like 1.5 ounces to the gun, but the recoil impulse, and it just, I know we always say these guns shoot soft, but it stands out. This is what the full size always should have been. They just started out with a skinnier barrel, and then they figured it out with the compact, and then finally got around to it with the GSD. That's enough of me rambling. If you have questions, hit me up.